Hi, welcome back. Our previous lesson was on shifts in the demand curve. Today we'll be looking at shifts in the demand curve versus movement along the demand curve. If the only thing that's changing is price, if the price of a good or service, then it's a movement along a demand curve. When other market conditions change beyond the price of a good, then it's a shift in the demand curve. So first, let's consider what we mean by movement along the demand curve. Consider the market of apples. The price ranges from 1 to 5 and quantity demand of apples ranges from 1 to 5. So on our demand curve, we can see that when the price reduces, quantity demand will increase. So point A here shows that when price is 5, quantity demand is 1. When price is 4, quantity demand increased to 2. When price is 3, quantity demand increased to 3. When price reduced to 2, quantity demanded increased to 4. And when price reduced to 1, quantity demand increased to 5. Now, when we say movement along the demand curve, all we mean is movement from one point on this demand curve to the other. Example, moving from point A to point B to point C to point D and to point E. And we can see that the only thing that is causing this movement is the change in price. So as price moves from 4 to 5, 5 to 4, we move from point A to point B. When price reduced to from 4 to 3, we move from point B to point C. When price reduced from 3 to 2, we move from point C to point D. And when price reduced from 2 to 1, we move from point D to point E. Now this is what we call a movement along a demand curve. Now let's consider what we mean by a shift in the demand curve. A shift in the demand curve is caused by changes in any other factor apart from the price of a good. So factors that can cause a shift in the demand curve include income, consumer preferences, consumer expectation, and changes in prices of related goods. All of these factors we discussed in detail in our previous lesson. Now let's look at this simple table to discuss what we mean by a shift in the demand curve. Assume again the market of apples. This first column here shows the price of apples. The second column here shows old quantity demanded. And the third column here shows new quantity demand. Now this example is showing an increase in demand. So an increase in your income can cause you to increase demand. An increase in your preferences for a good can cause you to increase the demand of that good. An increase in the price of related good can cause you to increase the demand for that good. And then an increase in your expectation or a change in your expectations can also cause you to increase the demand of a certain good. So our old quantity demand at price 5 is 1, price 4 is 2, at price 3 is 3, at price 2 our old quantity demand is 4, and at price 1 our old quantity demand is 5. So we represent this on our curve using this old quantity demand. So point A here on this curve shows at price 5 quantity demand is 1. At price 4 point B shows quantity demand is 2. At price 3 on our old demand curve, quantity demand is 3 at point C. Point D shows that at price 2, quantity demand is 4, and point E shows at price 1, quantity demand is 5. So this is our old demand curve relating to the prices of apple. Now, if any market conditions that we've mentioned in changes that induces you to increase your demand for the good, then your demand curve is going to shift to the left, to the right. Now, a new quantity demand is at price 5. Quantity demand increase from 1 to 2. So we increase from point A to point A prime. When price reduced to 4, quantity demand increased from 2 apples to 3 apples. On the graph, we increase from point B to point B prime. When price reduced to 3, quantity demand increased from 3 to 4. On the curve, it shows a movement, a shift from point C to C prime. When price reduced to 2, quantity demand increased from 4 to 5. On the curve, this shows a shift from point D to D prime. And finally, when price reduced to 1, quantity demand increased from 5 to 6. On the curve, this shows a shift from point E to E prime. So this is the difference between the shift in demand and the movement along the demand curve. For movement along the demand curve, if the price of a good changes and no other factor changes, then there's going to be movement along the same demand curve from one point to the other. For a shift in the demand curve, if any other market condition changes apart from the price of the good, then the demand curve is going to shift to the left or to the right. In our example, we talked about an increase in demand, but it could also be a decrease in demand depending on what changes in the market. So this is all that we have for shift in the demand curve versus movement along the demand curve. Our next lesson is going to be on individual supply. If you enjoyed today's lesson, consider subscribing. Thank you.